I brought flowers, her favorite perfume, and a letter that I spent several hours writing to the Mother's Day brunch. But when I saw that everything I had given her was stuffed in a garbage bag outside the garage, I couldn't stay. I left early and did something I had never done before. By morning, my phone was ringing off the hook with her calls, nonstop. I came to Mother's Day lunch with gifts in hand, a bouquet of fresh flowers, the kind you can't buy at the grocery store, a bottle of her favorite perfume that she used to wear when I was younger, and a letter. A letter that I wrote for hours, the kind you don't find on the shelves of Hallmark. I spent time on every word, choosing honesty over the usual platitudes, even though I knew it wouldn't change anything. But this year, I convinced myself that it could be different, perhaps less perfect, but softer. I didn't know why. Maybe because I was so busy with work that I didn't think about this day. Or because the last time we spoke, I helped her with her taxes and she actually thanked me as if she meant it. Or maybe because when I texted her to confirm the meeting, she replied with an old-school emoji, the kind we used to send each other before things started to change. It was small, but it was like a sign, and I hoped. I allowed myself to hope for something real. I even bought her the perfume she used to wear when she called me darling in front of her friends, when things were simpler. I spent an hour in a local shop to buy it, not some generic bottle from the net. I also spent a ridiculous amount of time writing the letter. It wasn't just a thank you note, it was a confession, in a way. I told her I appreciated everything she did for me, even if I didn't always feel needed. I told her that I still loved her, no matter what. I tried to tell her that I saw the sacrifices she made and that I realized we weren't always close. But I tried. I tried like I had never tried before. When I pulled into her driveway, I felt a mixture of nervous energy and pride. The house was beautiful, as always Instagram-worthy, even for a casual brunch. The table was set with mimosas, fresh flowers, cloth napkins, and cards. Everything looked the way it was supposed to look. I felt small, but at the same time I felt that I had earned my place at the table. She looked up when I walked in. "Oh, you came," she said. It was said with a tinge of surprise, perhaps even with warmth. For half a second I thought this was it, maybe I had finally done something right. Maybe this is the beginning of something new. I handed her flowers. Perfume. She barely glanced at the bottle, as if she had forgotten to return it. "Oh, you remember this one," she said, her voice flat. Not warm, but simply stating. I smiled. I restrained myself, reminding myself that I was an adult here, not the child I had been before. I watched as she put the perfume aside without a second thought, already returning to the table. Zach, my half-brother, was telling us about life in the dorm, making everyone laugh. I sat down, feeling like an outsider, despite the efforts I had made to make things different this time. There was a folded napkin on my table, but there was no card or mimosa waiting for me, just a napkin lying on the table, as if it were a backwards thing to do. Despite this, I poured myself some juice like a responsible adult. I watched my mom adjust the centerpiece as she always did, pretending I didn't exist, at least for a second. My brother handed me the salt without looking. It was not new, but this time it seemed heavier. Maybe because I was trying harder this time. Perhaps because the letter was still in my jacket pocket, and I kept wondering when I should give it to her. Should I do it now, or should I wait? The letter was sealed, carefully wrapped in a red envelope. The beautiful pen had barely dried, but for some reason I could not say a word. Every time I opened my mouth, it seemed like 100 different things were stopping me. I offered to pour coffee. She didn't even hear me, or maybe she pretended not to. She didn't say anything. I smiled as if it didn't bother me, as I always did. Halfway through breakfast, my brother looked back and smiled. "So are you celebrating Mother's Day from a distance now? Or is this your charity visit?" Jake laughed. Mom didn't say anything. She just sipped her drink, the glass somehow catching her attention, and the whole table waited awkwardly for someone to respond. "Well," I said, forcing a smile. "I didn't bring a coupon, but I did bring a gift." Zach smiled. "Cool, did you send her a Venmo like last year?" "No," I said, still smiling. "This year, actually, in writing." I stood up, pulling the letter out of my pocket. The red envelope stood out like a bloody stain on the white tablecloth. Everyone fell silent. My brother snorted. "Are you writing her a love letter or something?" "No," I answered, still smiling, "just a thank you." I put the letter next to her plate, watching it lie there like a bug waiting to be ignored. The table was silent for a moment, until someone awkwardly asked for butter. After breakfast, I helped clear the plates. When I was halfway to the kitchen, I saw that the garbage bags had already been taken to the garage. We barely had time to eat. Maybe she's just trying to be efficient, I thought. She liked it when everything was cleaned up. I went outside to throw away the napkins. The garage door was half open, just enough to let the light fall on the stacked garbage cans in the backyard. There, leaning against a black garbage bag, were the gifts I had given her, the perfume, still in the box, the flowers, bent and stuffed inside, as if I'd thought of them later. And the envelope. My red envelope, still sealed, laying there like a piece of trash. I froze. At first it wasn't anger. It was heat rising from my chest and blurring my vision. I wasn't angry, not yet. Just broken. I looked around, but no one was watching. No camera crew was going to jump out and tell me it was a joke. Only silence, only garbage. I gathered everything, my perfume, flowers, the letter. I held it all in my hands, stood there and didn't know what to do. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was an instinct, but I couldn't let it rot in the trash. I just couldn't. I returned to the car, holding the gifts in my hand as if I were carrying evidence from a crime scene. I sat in the car for a minute, looking at the letter on the passenger seat. What a stupid thing to write, I thought. But it didn't matter. The job was done. I calmly drove home without saying goodbye or writing to her. I didn't even slam the door on my way out. I just left. The next morning my phone was ringing off the hook. She was calling nonstop. I stood and looked at the trash can. The bouquet, the perfume, my heartfelt letter, thrown aside like yesterday's news. At first there was no anger, only a rush of heat that crawled up my neck, burning my cheeks. I sat down slowly, numb, as if I could still salvage some shred of dignity from this mess. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was pride, or maybe I just couldn't bear the thought of my pathetic, wasted love rotting under coffee grounds and eggshells. I reached out, pulling out everything. Flowers, bent and twisted. Perfume, still in the box. The red envelope, untouched, still sealed. It felt wrong, like I was holding evidence from a crime scene. I didn't even know what I was doing. Was I hoping for some kind of atonement? A sign that my efforts were not completely in vain? I went back to the car, clutching the bag in my hand as if I were carrying the broken remains of a failed experiment. I sat there for a minute, turning off the engine, just staring at the letter lying on the passenger seat. What a stupid thing to write. I stared at it, the words I had written to her now seeming foreign. Thank you for the years you gave me. I know it wasn't easy, but you did the best you could. I am proud of the woman you have become. I put the car in gear, not knowing if I was driving or just going with the flow. When I got home, I didn't say goodbye. I didn't send a text message. I didn't even mention what I had seen. I didn't slam the door as I left, I just slipped out quietly. Later, I put the letter on the kitchen table. It was lying next to the perfume and flowers that were already starting to wilt. I looked at them, trying to understand why I kept trying, why I still cared, why I didn't see it coming. I didn't sleep much that night, but I made one decision before the sun came up. And in the morning, her calls didn't stop. I used to think that change happens slowly, like erosion, something you don't notice until the shore disappears, until there is nothing left but empty space. But now, looking back, I think the truth is that it happened faster than I could have imagined. I met Jake when I was 10. He came over to our house for dinner a few times, quiet, practical, and quite nice. At first I thought that maybe I would find someone, that maybe, just maybe, I would have another person who cared. But I didn't realize that I was starting to disappear. A child was born, my half-brother Zach, and suddenly I was no longer her son. I was a reminder of her past, a piece of baggage she once carried. Jake liked to start from scratch, and I could feel it. I could hear it in the way he always said our boy but never my stepson. When Zach was born, I felt my name fall off their lips like dust, and Zach's name became the only one that mattered. But I still hoped, because sometimes when you want something so badly, you find excuses. You ignore the signs, the things you know deep down, because you just can't give up the dream of being wanted. So, when I came to this year's brunch with flowers in my hands and a letter full of hope, I thought that maybe things could change. I thought that maybe I was still a part of this, still a son. The house, as always, looked immaculate. The table was set, the mimosas were flowing, the cards were neatly laid out. I felt the familiar flutter in my stomach that used to mean something, as if I belonged to them. I handed her the flowers. She barely glanced at them. "Oh, you remembered this one," she said, her voice flat and disinterested. I held back a smile, although inside I could feel the edges of everything I had tried to pretend beginning to unravel. We continued to eat. The conversation at the table was casual. My brother Zach talked about life in the dormitory, nothing that mattered to me. I sat there, clutching that damn letter in my pocket, waiting for the right moment, knowing that no matter how I presented it, it would never be the same. And then it happened. Halfway through breakfast, Zach smiled at me. "So are you celebrating Mother's Day from a distance now? Or is this your charity visit?" Jake laughed. Mom didn't say anything. She just sipped her drink, pretending it didn't bother her. I didn't show it. I smiled back. "Well, I didn't bring a coupon, but I did bring a gift," I said, keeping my tone light. Zach smiled. "Cool, did you send her a Venmo like last year?" No, I replied, this year I did it in writing. I pulled out the letter and put it on the table, next to her plate. The red envelope stood out like a warning, like a bloody stain on a white canvas. She blinked at it, and my brother snorted. Are you writing her a love letter or something? God, no, I replied, still smiling, just a thank you note. The table was silent for a moment. Someone asked for butter, and everything went back to normal. But I didn't want to. I really didn't. I kept looking at that envelope. I stayed there, helping to clear the plates, but I couldn't shake that feeling. The feeling that I was invisible, that everything I had done for her was not enough. Even now, after breakfast, I helped clear the table. I noticed that the garbage bags were already lined up outside the garage. No one had even bothered to take out their plates, and she was already busy cleaning up, getting rid of things. I went outside, thinking that maybe this was just her way of staying organized. But when I saw the garbage bags, my heart sank. Everything I had given her, flowers, perfume, a letter, had already been thrown away. I stood there and looked at it, not angry, but broken. I didn't know what to do. There was no point in confronting her. There was no point in trying anymore. I bent down and picked it all up and put it back in my hands, and for a moment I thought I was holding something real, something that hadn't been thrown away. But at the same moment, I realized that it was all just a joke, my offering, my love. She didn't even try to pretend that it mattered. I went home without looking back, but it didn't end there. I couldn't stop seeing it, the garbage, the perfume, still in the box, the flowers, half crushed and thrown away, the red envelope, bent and crumpled, tossed aside as if it didn't matter. But it did matter. The thought of leaving it there, abandoned, gnawed at me. So I bent down and picked it up again, not to return it, not to prove myself, just because I couldn't leave it behind. These were not just perfume, flowers, and a letter. These things were mine. They were me. If she didn't want them, then I was done. I wouldn't give her anything else. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a message from her. You left in a strange mood. I hope we didn't do anything wrong. I almost laughed, but I didn't. Nothing about it was funny, not the years I'd spent adjusting to a life she seemed to want more than I did, not the thousands of small acts of kindness I'd done without expecting anything in return, not the memory of her tucking me into bed at 7 and saying, "You are my whole world, you mean the world to me," only to grow up and realize that this world has boundaries that I will never be allowed to cross again. They didn't kick me out. They just made sure that I always felt like I was visiting someone else's family. So yes, I didn't call her back, because for the first time in my life, I'm not trying to be invited. I'm not chasing something that will never be mine. I'm trying to remember what it feels like to belong to myself. That night I did not sleep, not because of anger, not even because of a broken heart. It was something worse, clarity. That cold, sharp clarity that comes when you finally stop hoping. When you stand in the house you thought you would live in forever and finally realize that all the walls are empty. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, I went into the kitchen and put the 3 gifts on the table: perfume, flowers, and a letter. Now they looked smaller, sadder, like relics from a version of myself I no longer recognized. I stared at the envelope, crumpled and bent from a garbage bag, still sealed. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what it said. Instead, I opened my laptop. Utilities, gas, water, electricity. I logged into my accounts, calmly scheduling the last payments for the month. Then I deleted my name from everywhere, no more automatic drafts. Next came the tuition bill. I agreed to help my brother pay for the next semester. The transfer hadn't gone through yet, it was scheduled for the 15th. I canceled it. The confirmation letter brought me back to a sense of reality. Then I opened a new letter and sent it to my mom. Subject, Mother's Day. Body, just a heads up, I put an envelope of money in the letter I sent you. It was supposed to go towards Zach's school fees. I thought you would know what to do with it. I hope it didn't get lost. I pressed send. Then I closed my laptop and made some tea. I didn't drink it. I sat in silence, letting her sit with it. It was better than screaming. At 8:12 a.m., messages started coming in. Wait, what do you mean by cash? I didn't see any envelope inside. Are you serious? My God, how much was there? I'll look at it now. Then the calls started, one after the other. Her name appeared on the screen, flashed, disappeared, and then reappeared. Voicemail after voicemail, piling up like little panic attacks. I didn't answer it. I let her panic. I let her retrace her steps, let her wonder how much she had thrown away literally and figuratively. Of course, it wasn't true. There was no cash. But she didn't know that. And now, every time she thought about that garbage bag, she felt it. This nagging, unbearable possibility that she had thrown away something valuable. Not just a gift, not just money, something that could have saved them. And now it was gone. Around noon, Jake finally texted me, "You're acting like a child. This is a serious situation. Can you just tell us you're lying?" I almost responded by asking him if he wanted to check the route of the garbage truck. Instead, I put my phone on silent and moved on. There was one last step left. I opened my contacts and found the names of 3 people I had personally introduced to Jake. People he now worked with: clients, potential clients, suppliers. One old friend who had helped him get a side contract for which he was not qualified. I sent a different version of the same message to each of them. Hi, I just wanted to reach out and ask that you not associate my name with Jake Hatcher in the future. It's nothing dramatic, just a personal boundary. I hope that's clear. No gossip, no details. Just enough to make them feel it. Enough to make them think about what was going on behind the scenes. Enough to loosen a few strings. I knew how this world worked. Jake's entire job depended on being seen as a reliable guy with connections. If I left quietly, others would follow. By the end of the week, he had already lost a longtime client. The contract was suspended. Another client asked to deal directly with someone else. I didn't even have to lift a finger. Just one email, a little space, and the machine started spinning. That evening, my phone rang again. Did you find him? Please answer it. I need to know. I think I saw the bag you're talking about, but it's gone. Please tell me if it's true. I stared at her name on the screen. For a second, I imagined the answer something cold, harsh, final. But that would have given her the opportunity to end it. So I did nothing, because it was not about revenge. It was about making them feel the burden I had been carrying since I was 10 years old. From the moment I stopped being the whole world to her and started fading into the background. It started when I became an inconvenience. She couldn't wait to outgrow me, couldn't wait to stop carrying the burden of the past. It was not only about revenge, but also about watching them silently sort things out. Watching them realize for the first time what I had been trying to say for years. You can't keep erasing someone from your memory and expect them to remain faithful. I know I lied. I know that the envelope never existed, but the pain, the withdrawal, the abandonment was real, and for the first time in my life, they couldn't ignore it. That evening, my mom left me a voicemail. Her voice was trembling, as if she was hanging on by a thread. She was not crying, but despair seeped through her words. Please call me, please. I didn't know. I didn't see it. I would never, if I had known what was there. Just call me, okay? I'm so sorry. Please call me. She didn't. I love you. She didn't say, I'm sorry, at least not in the way she meant it. It was a panic, like a person who realized that she had lost something important but couldn't remember where she had put it. So I let her sit there. I still didn't answer. The next morning, my aunt texted me. Apparently, my mother had called her crying and told her that I was cruel, withdrawn, and difficult. My aunt wrote only one line: if I were you, I wouldn't answer either. It made me smile, just a little. For the first time, someone saw it, really saw it. How much I had given, how little I had received, how calmly I accepted the fact that I was a nobody until it became unbearable. But now I was no longer a nobody. That weekend, I packed up the gifts, the flowers, the perfume, the letter, and hid them in my closet. Not because I wanted to keep them, but because I wasn't ready to throw them away. They no longer reminded me of her. They reminded me, of the version of me that kept trying, that kept hoping. And now, I didn't try anymore. I had committed suicide. By Monday, she stopped asking if I was okay and started demanding answers. Her text changed from "I'm sorry you're upset" to "you have to stop this immediately." Jake wrote to me directly, using a professional tone, as if we were negotiating a contract rather than untangling decades-old grudges. He said that my decision to stop working with him was affecting his work and that he hoped I would change my mind for the sake of family stability. And that's how the mask slipped off. Stability. What a joke. What was stable in this family? What was stable about the fact that she kept me on the edge for years? That Jake came and replaced me without even looking back? What was stable about a family that had become an empty shell built on routines that excluded me? A family that didn't even know how to love without commitment? Stability was not about protecting the family. It was about maintaining an illusion. And that's all they cared about. I didn't react to Jake. I didn't react to my mom. They wanted me to come back to the family, but they didn't deserve it. They didn't deserve it anymore. They couldn't wipe me off the face of the earth and then expect me to come running when they needed me. They wanted answers? They wouldn't get them from me. Not this time. That night I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. I had spent so many years begging for crumbs of love, recognition, belonging. But not anymore. I wasn't begging. I wasn't chasing anything. The only thing left was to let go, and that's exactly what I did. Letting go did not mean giving up. It meant taking myself back, and that was better than anything they could give me. It wasn't just a garbage bag. It wasn't just perfume or flowers or a letter I wrote with shaking hands. It was everything. I became an inconvenience that she couldn't wait to outgrow. That was the problem. For years, They had treated me like junk to be thrown into the attic if it didn't fit into the picture they wanted to paint. And now that I was gone, they couldn't function without me. And yet I didn't say anything. I didn't gloat. I didn't send a single post on social media. I didn't write a last message, "Here's everything you did wrong." I just stopped playing the role, and it made them angry. At the end of the week, my mom came to my office. No warning, no call. She just came as if she wanted to prove something. My secretary called me, furious. I went downstairs and saw her in the lobby, dressed in a cream jacket and heels that click like punctuation marks. She was not smiling. "Can we talk?" she asked, already heading for the front door. We stepped outside, and the air between us was thick with tension. She didn't ask me how I was doing. She didn't apologize. She got straight to the point. "You humiliated this family," she snapped. "You've embarrassed your brother. Jake's job is hanging in the balance. Do you realize what that means?" "I know exactly what that means," I said calmly, my voice steady. Her eyes froze. "You're doing this out of anger. Because of one party?" I tilted my head. "Is that what you think?" She folded her arms in defense. "We raised you. We paid for your clothes, your food, your school." I nodded slowly. "And I gave you a down payment on this house. I paid your utility bills for 2 years. I offered to help with Zach's schooling. But, of course, let's talk about the time you bought me a pair of sneakers in 5th grade. This shocked her. Her jaw clenched, but I didn't finish. "You didn't ask me for help," I continued. "You were just waiting for it. Expected me to have your back when Jake forgot to pay the mortgage. Expected me to understand when you missed my birthday because Zach had a test. Expected me to keep quiet when you smiled when he called me half of the family like I was an accident." She opened her mouth, but I continued. "You expected me to keep giving, even after you rejected the only thing I had to offer." This hit a nerve with me. I saw something flicker in her eyes, maybe guilt, maybe discomfort. She tried one last time. "You're punishing the wrong person," she said, her voice tight. "You're punishing your brother. He didn't throw anything away." I smiled, tense and tired. "Do you want to talk about the letter?" She hesitated. I saw her defense crack, just for a moment. I didn't know," she said, her voice softer. "I thought maybe you took him with you. I wasn't sure." "You weren't sure?" I repeated, my voice colder than I meant it. "I'm not giving up the show just to make you feel better. I'm not going to clean up your mess. And if Jake has to answer for how he got the job, then that's not my problem anymore." She looked at me like a stranger, as if the reliable son she had always relied on had disappeared overnight. Perhaps, in a sense, it was like that. Then she said it, words that echoed in my head long after she was gone. "You're not just punishing Jake," she hissed. "You're punishing this family." I nodded. "Then maybe this family should have stopped treating me like a stranger with a checkbook." I turned around and walked back to the house. I didn't look back. 2 days later, Zach posted a vague, dramatic story about people who leave their families when things get tough. Several people liked it. One cousin wrote me a private message. "Is this about you?" I replied, "Maybe, and if so, it's good." I heard that Jake started losing clients. People were reconsidering their partnerships. One of the suppliers I had introduced him to canceled their contract. A month later, he was asked to resign. They called it restructuring. Everyone knew that it wasn't about Zach's training. It was about the fact that everything was falling apart. He wasn't getting paid. Zach had to postpone his semester. I never said a word about it, not because I was trying to be cruel, but because silence was the only language they hadn't learned to listen to. A few weeks after that scene in the office, I got a call from my mom, Jake, and Zach. I didn't answer. They left a voicemail. "We just want to talk," she said, sweetly and carefully, like a person trying to pick up a chessboard after it has tipped over. Zach mumbled, "I guess I'm sorry." Jake didn't say anything. Then his mom added, "You've made your point. What are you going to do now? Are you going to disown us?" I listened to the message twice, once to hear what they said, and once to hear what they didn't say. No one answered, "I'm sorry," as if they meant it. No one said, "We treated you badly." They just wanted me to return to my place, to return to my role. But I wasn't playing it anymore. That's why I didn't answer. I blocked the number.